Hey everyone! In my series here of budget builds for road and mountain bikes, I've got a Trek road bike from the late 70s, early 80s. I picked this one up for $15 from one of my local bicycle scrap yards. And in this video, I'm going to go through it, get it all working just the way it should, do a couple of upgrades to it, and take it out for rides. If this kind of thing interests you, watch the video. I think the bike came out real nice and it is definitely a nice rider. So here's our next project. It is what I'm guessing is a late 1970s road bike, probably 1978, 1979, just judging from the components that are on this bike and the color of the bike. If you guys know better and can tell me exactly what model this is, please let me know, because there are no markings on this frame. I intend to keep the original decals, and I want to keep as much of the original paint as possible, just do minor touch-ups to it. I think I'll be able to buff this whole thing out and have it looking great when I'm done. The bike has the original 27-inch wheels. Those are Regita 27-inch rims, with the Sunshine Gyromaster hubs. As you can see, the bar tape and the hoods and all that have taken a beating over the years. But I think everything is going to clean up nicely. The original die-comp levers are in nice shape. We have die-comp side pull brakes, and I'm going to be keeping those, just cleaning them up. It has a 6-speed Suntour freewheel and a double crank up front. We've got Suntour friction shifters on the down tube here, but I am going to be putting bar end shifters on this bike. It has one of those funny old mechanical belt drive odometer trip meters. And if that is correct, it has about 450 miles on the bike. The tires on his bike are beyond rotted, very weathered. This does have the funny little tire saver things, both front and rear. Those were supposed to knock off thorns and road debris as you rode along, so that before it did any damage. I haven't seen those on a bike in a while. I probably won't be putting those back on, but they are kind of a cool little feature. Got an SR stem, and I believe the bars are SR as well. So that's first look at the bike. I think it has a lot of potential. I hope you can see it too. It's going to clean up to be a real nice rider, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and start tearing this apart, take it down to every last nut and bolt, and then we'll start reassembling. Those are a pretty derailleur. Surprisingly light too. A little bit of water in there, but not horrible. I hung the frame up just because I'm curious what it weighs. It feels pretty light. It's a flat 5 pounds there, so not too bad. Has the potential to be a pretty light bike. The bike came apart nicely, no issues whatsoever, and everything looked good as it came off. So I'm gonna clean the frame up and then we'll start the touch up. But I'm gonna wait till the morning when the light's better and I'll show you what I do there. We can look at what hasn't been exposed to the sun, which is the steer tube here, and that is the original color. We're not far off at all, so this bike hasn't been out in the sun a whole bunch. Mostly what we have is dulling and scratching of the paint here. So we've got various little nicks around, which we'll have to touch up. And we've got some marks from it being leaned up against things or things bumping into it. Some chips along the way here. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to degrease this. And to do that, I like this Dawn power wash stuff. It works really well for cutting grease and it's relatively inexpensive, and these spray balls actually spray really nice. So we'll spray this down, give this a second to soak. This is a real mild soap, so it won't damage the paint in any way. In general, I'd advise everybody to stay away from the really harsh cleaners like acetone. Sometimes I'll use rubbing alcohol. The Dawn works really well. And there is also a actual prep for pre-painting, which is a degreaser that you can get through your local auto parts store or any automotive paint supplier. But the very first thing we have to do is determine whether or not this is clear coated or not. So is it just a lacquer finish, or is it lacquer with a clear coat over the top? And it's real easy to check that. I'll show you the products that I use here first. This scratch out is a great thing for getting rid of minor scratches in paint. Works really well. There are several versions of this at your local auto parts store. This is another one. This is a Meguiar's scratch remover. I bought a whole case of this stuff for $1.99 a bottle at my local thrift store. So that was a great way to save a little bit of money, because these are normally, I don't know, about $12 or $14 a bottle. And I go through a lot of this because I do a lot of paint work. And so these are great for getting out scratches. All you need to do to check to see if something's been clear coated is put a little of this scratch out or similar product on a rag. And we'll try it up here on the stem where we know that the paint's in good shape, and if this were to react with it, at least it wouldn't show, being a spot that didn't show. And see, we've got blue on the rag there. So that tells us that this is not a clear coated paint job here. This is a single stage paint, and it is an older lacquer. So to repair that, we're going to use a lacquer finish, and we'll be able to just do a real light wet sanding on the spots that we touch up using 1000 or 1500 grit paper, and then we'll be able to buff it all out, and we should get a real nice match for this. For the touch up on this frame, I'm going to use an acrylic lacquer here. I realize that I have access to paints that most people don't. I've got an awful lot of automotive paints because I painted motorcycles for years. And so I've got a stockpile of different colors and all. This blue, although it looks brighter on the can here, that's because it's on a silver background, the silver can. I think that's going to be exactly what we want for this frame. If you don't have access to an automotive paint shop or anything, you can go to a local auto parts store and get this type of paint. Take your part in with you and try to match it in the store to the best color. You can usually get real close. Sometimes you get, real close, surprisingly. This one obviously would not work with this. It's a much greener blue and lighter. But these type of paints are an option. This will be just an enamel that you can use on this. It'll work fine. It won't react with the old lacquer finish. Everything will be fine. You'll also need some small paint brushes for touch-up. These testers are from a local hobby store, and any place that sells models and model paints and all of that will have these little brushes. Also any sort of art supply store. But you want the real fine tips there because we've got some real small scratches that we just want to lay some paint into without a whole lot of overlap. Before we do anything with the paint, we've already checked for whether or not it's clear coated, but we're going to use the same product here and just rub this whole thing down and see what kind of gloss we can get on it. This will also take out a whole bunch of the surface scratches that are on here. And some of the things that you think you may have to touch up with a brush actually will remove or be completely hidden by this sort of super fine rubbing compound that we're using here. So go over the fork real well. Cotton rags work the best. Microfibers don't work so well for this stage. You know, we've got nicks up here on the crown, that kind of thing. We know that we're going to be touching those up. But just go over everything else. See, make it as nice as you can make it. And we'll see what the fork looks like after this stage. The fork's polishing up nicely, but we do have this kind of lumpy spot here where that previous paint repair was done. Okay, I've got some 1500 grit paper here, which is extremely fine. We're going to take a little corner of that and get it wet with some water. And then we need to find that spot again. It is right there. And we're just going to very lightly sand that little spot. This is actually easier for me to do when I'm not trying to film it. Much easier. Everything's more difficult when you're trying to film. But all we're doing is just hitting the high spots on that. Very little pressure. Just knocking that down. I think we're almost there. I can see the sheen with the water on it, the reflection, and that lets me know where we're at. So yeah, we're going to call that flat. Now we can just buff that one out. That's something we won't have to touch up using our touch-up paint, and it'll look just fine. Call that good. We'll leave that old repair alone because it's probably 40 years old at this point. It's not going anywhere. And now we've just got a bunch of other little scratches and nicks and all of that kind of thing that we're going to need to touch up. Okay, so it's really important too to get into some direct sunlight when doing this. You can see now so many more of the scratches, and it just gives you a slightly different perspective. Much better to do touch-ups in direct sunlight like this if you can, not direct sun necessarily, because you don't want this paint to dry real fast. You don't want to do this in super hot conditions, but you do want to be able to see all the little nicks, and they really show up when you're out in direct sunlight like this. So when we're done, none of these should show, and we should look like a brand new fork here. So let's go back. We'll shake up this paint, and I'll start applying this to the little nicks and scratches. Okay, I've sprayed a little bit of white primer onto a clean surface. Now I can pick that up, and I can touch up the centers of these deeper scratches. So what we're doing with the two coats is we're bringing the paint up to the original paint level, and then we will do a super light wet sand like we did on that other repair, and then we just buff it out. Everything will blend in nicely. This gets a little harder for me to do every year because my eyes get worse. So if I'm a little slow and shaky, that's why my eyesight just isn't as good as it used to be. So we're going to work our way around this guy. We're getting real close. 2 coats of touch-up, and I'm speeding up the drying process with the heat gun here. Not getting anything hot. Just slightly warm, blowing some air across it. It's still real cold here in my shop, so the paint's drying kind of slowly today. Okay, we're getting pretty dry. Now it's just back over all the little spots with the 1500 grip paper again. And all we're doing is just knocking the tops off of the little repairs. See, like right there, we've got a little divot around that. Just knock that down until you don't see that ring, and then that'll polish out nicely. Almost there. And I can't stress how gentle you have to be with the touch on these. So that's getting good. Looking good there. We've got a bunch of repairs down in this area. Okay, so this fork is essentially done. Everything came out real nice on it. I wet sanded it and then polished it out. And as you can see, none of the chip repairs show now. So everything looks real good. As soon as the sun comes back out, I'll take it outside. I had it out a little bit earlier and the thing just glowed. Really looked beautiful in the sun. So I'm real happy with it. I think that'll be great. The frame itself really is in pretty good shape paint-wise. We've got scratches along the top tube here. You can see some of those. I'm not sure if the GoPro will pick those up. Seat stays are a little scraped up. But all in all, the paint is really pretty decent. We've got some scrapes down here from the cable clamp that used to be there. Not too bad though. The other side's about the same. So yeah, we've got a few issues that we'll need to take care of, but all in all, pretty good. We've got something weird going on down here. That may just be something on the surface, or that may be a little bubbling of the paint. I'll find out as soon as I start cleaning. I should definitely make the point that you should never go over any of the old original decals on these bikes with any sort of solvent, or honestly anything even as strong as rubbing alcohol. They can destroy these in just a matter of seconds. So best to stay with products like the Dawn here. If you have to, go ahead and tape these off. Don't apply tape directly to them, but wrap this with paper and then tape it, and that'll stop you from inadvertently getting anything on there that will screw these up. But it's always a shame to have a bike that lasts for 50 years with decent decals and then mess it up during the cleaning process. So yeah, don't touch those. And I'll show you when we're done with the paint what I do to put on over these to protect them for years to come. It's a real nice new product. As I'm cleaning the frame, I'm finding a few more touch-ups by the original owner. This one, you can see he put paint in, but it's up over the edges of the scratch, and he only did one coat. So the color isn't quite right, and it's a little lumpy, if you can see that in the reflection. So I need to clean that down a little bit. What I'll do is wet sand that area, take it back down, add some more paint to it, and we should be able to make that look fine. There are a couple more places like that on the seat stays, but everything should clean up fine. All the touch-ups done on the frame here. I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours, and then I'll do a little bit of wet sanding and polishing, and we'll be good to go. I'm starting to put all the little pieces back onto the frame. The down tube shifters here will be replaced by bar end shifters, but I need this bracket that they're mounted on. So that's why I put that on. We got the lower bracket for the cable guides. I do like the looks of these SR Apex cranks. Real nice looking and real light, surprisingly. But the rings look like they're in great shape. We've got a 40 uh, 52. It's a pretty standard sizes there. And just a real, so just a quick wash, and these are ready to go back on. The truck here has the Suntour VX derailleurs front and rear. It's a surprisingly light derailleur, really beautiful. Yeah, the rims look like they're going to polish up nicely. They're pretty oxidized right now, but a little metal polish, and they look great. The wheels are all cleaned up, bearings repacked. Now I'm going to put some Kenda 27 by 1.25 tires on it. These are bigger tires than what came in it originally, but it's going to give me a more comfortable ride. The bike originally had a 14 by 30 freewheel. I'm going to put on a 14 by 28. There, that's enough tire that should give me a real nice smooth ride, and I think it looks pretty good on it too. Coming together, it's a pretty nice look for it. Just checking on the correct chain length here. And what I had on here is just fine. I just wanted to make sure that somebody hadn't replaced it with the wrong size chain. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out a new chain here. We'll get this cut to the right length and put it on. As it turns out, that was 116 links, and that's exactly what my new chain was, so I didn't have to cut anything out of it. But everything seems to be working well. I don't have my rear derailleur hooked up yet because I don't have a inner cable that's long enough to make it down here. So I've got to pick one of those up. So I have a pair of these Dura Ace pedals that have been in a box for a while. Might as well put them on this bike. They're a little nicked up and all. Mostly just minor scratches, but they're real dull. So I just went over and buffed this one a little bit, and they're going to come out real nice. So no issues there. Those should look real nice when they go on the bike. I had mentioned that I had a product that I use on the old decals, and that is this Cerakote. You can get it on Amazon, at Walmart, those kind of places. I'm sure you can find it online everywhere. But it's a ceramic coating, holds up to a whole bunch of washing, and it's a super durable actual coating that goes on over these. So they come in these little packs. You tear these open. I just applied some to this decal, so I'm not going to show you and do that again. But these little wipes are wet here, and then you just wipe it on over the decal. Don't rub it in or anything, because you have the chance of hurting the decal again. So just one wipe down it, make sure that it gets completely coated, and then you need to just not touch it for about 24 hours. Let that set up, and you've got a super durable coating over the decal that'll help it last for many more years. I think the bike's coming together nicely. I need a longer outer cable for my rear brake, and I need a longer inner cable for my rear derailleur. So until I run by a bike store, which I'm going to try to do tomorrow, I'm kind of at a stopping point. So I'll see you as soon as I have those parts. The cables and housings came in, so I'm going to get everything hooked up. Brakes adjusted, the derailleur's adjusted, and we're going to take this bike out for a ride. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate you, and I hope you found this kind of interesting. I've got many more ride videos and build videos coming up here in the near future, so subscribe to the channel, and you'll be able to see those as they come out. But thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.